Becoming a mom brings lots of emotions, as well as unexpected experiences, from the high highs of witnessing your children flourish and grow to the low lows and feelings of shame, guilt, and remorse for the life we once had prior to having kids. The feelings and experiences of motherhood are wild, and I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Hey, it's Jenny Swanson, your host of Chaos and Coffee Motherhood Unfiltered. I am so grateful you're here. Let's get into it. All right, y'all. This is episode 2. Welcome. Piggybacking on episode 1 and Brene Brown's work just a little bit. The feelings of shame, guilt, and being in the power within being vulnerable. I want to base this episode around the feelings that came after becoming a mom, because I think they are so big, or at least and so monumental for myself, that I wonder if others have felt this way. I'm pretty sure, because on normal, regular day, we feel feelings of shame, guilt, and remorse for something. Maybe not every single day, but I think it's normal to feel those feelings. And I think as a mom, or at least for myself personally, it became like magnified. So, truth, I'm going to give you a little tidbit. I actually recorded this once last night, and as I was recording it, I had this big aha moment, and I was like, I think this recording is actually just for me. And I just had this big aha moment and this big sense of pondering, and I just kept talking and realized a few things that I want to share with you. But it was kind of a more an inflection for myself. And I didn't realize it until I was in to what the episode was going to be. So, thinking back, I was looking at Edith after I became a mom. There was this moment, and I truly thought I only felt the feelings of shame for the first time, or mom shame for the first time, 7 days after Edith was born. However, as I was recording, reflecting back, I realized it happened much sooner. So, the instance was, I was changing Edith. It had been a week. I remember thinking about it, and I had this wave of emotion and just this sense of pride and joy, and then also a little bit of sadness. And I remember looking down, and that's when I started crying, because I was like, oh my gosh, you're a week old. How did this happen? Where did this time go? It's gonna fly so quickly. And then before you know it, you're gonna be on your own. And that, who knows what time that is, especially in times like these, where millennials are staying with their parents and younger generations are staying with their parents for longer. And that's okay. But I just remember the wave of emotions that this time with you is going to go by so fast. And it is so beautiful, just the week I have had. And behind that came this wall of shame and guilt. Am I doing this right? Could I be doing something different? Is staying home with you the right decision I'm making? And I feel very good about my decision right now. I am grateful that I have the opportunity to stay home with my girls. At the same time, it's also a financial decision. I don't want to work when my entire paycheck's going directly to the girls' daycare. I just feel like I'm sure there are things that they're missing out on in daycare, but they would also be missing out on quality time with me if they were. So it's a balance. And truthfully, it comes down to, you have to do whatever's right for you and your family, whether it's daycare or whether it's being a stay-at-home parent. And that has taken me a little bit to finally come into acceptance mode. There are days when it is so hard, and I am in the thick of it, and I am currently in the thick of it. Edith just turned 3, talking about how looking back and thinking in a blink of an eye, things are going to be gone. How did that happen? I have no idea. And then today is Vince and I, my husband's anniversary. We've been married for 8 years, and I'm like, how did time fly? And going back to it, in that moment of me having this bonding kind of cry sesh with Edith as I'm changing her diaper, it probably looked so dumb. I'm shaming myself at the same time. This is dumb, this is stupid. Yet now I'm looking back and I'm like, those feelings are valid. They're absolutely valid. They could be a little bit ridiculous, and I could have been very hormonal, but honestly, I can be very sympathetic. I can be very emotional sometimes, so it happens. Um, but things, they go by so quickly. And that feeling of shame and guilt, I was thinking originally that was the first time I ever experienced it, but in truth, it absolutely wasn't. It was pretty much right after Edith was born. Um, so I'll give a little story. So after I had Edith, we did skin to skin and backtrack a little bit more before I even get into that. So going into the hospital, I had this notion, I don't care how I'm delivering as long as I walk away with having a beautiful, healthy baby and I am healthy myself leaving. And they ended up trying to induce me for 2 days. It didn't work. And then I ended up electing for a C-section because literally I did not dilate, and I didn't dilate at all. Like, I was a 0, and I remained a 0 the entire time. So I elected for that, and that was a big thing. I just knew that I needed to be okay with whatever happened and whatever the outcome was, and that was kind of me taking my power back. I also had told myself that I was either going to breastfeed or I would feed with formula, and it was okay, whatever worked. However, that is actually not what happened. Looking back, the way I did things with Evie was much different, and I definitely took back power. However, kind of fast forwarding a bit to when I had Edith, I'm laying, I just had her, I had just come to because I was out for a hot second. They're having me like feed her, do skin to skin, and she latched well the first time. Then I get up to the room and not happening. She's just not latching, having issues. This went on the whole entire stay. She would latch and then she'd like let go. It was a mess, and I didn't know what I was doing, and having others help me was great. However, I was getting mixed signals, and I've learned, no hate also to lactation consultants, I've just learned that everyone has their approach and certain things that work for them, etc. And it's really hard when it's not consistent and I'm getting mixed signals and mixed messages. And this mainly also goes for social media, like lactation consultants on social media. Like, I'm in pumping and lactation groups, and some of the advice that's thrown out, it's like, okay, that's great, I'm gonna try it. And also, one size does not fit all. I learned that very, very quickly. So going back to Edith, I am having a hell of a time getting her to latch and feed. It was a mess. And I had this one wonderful nurse. I mean, they were all wonderful. My experience with Edith after I had her was like 10 out of 10. The nurses were phenomenal. I felt super supported. I will say there was one nurse that went like above and beyond. I loved all of them. But this one was like a godsend. So we had her, I believe it was the first night. And she like came in, she really showed me how to do, I think it's called like the football hold, and she like helped prop up the pillows. I would just call her because I was like, I can't do this by myself. It wasn't even the fact that I had a C-section, I couldn't move. I was totally good in that area. Got really lucky. My issue was I could not get Edith to latch, and I could not get the hold right. It was a mess. It was so awkward to me. The pillow situation, I didn't know what I was doing. And she was a godsend. We worked on it. We got it-ish. And then the very next day, I mean, she worked at night, so she left. And I just ran into issues. And I was getting overwhelmed. The second night, Edith was like losing her mind. You could tell she really wasn't getting anything. Also, fun fact, I didn't know this at the time. You get your milk in after having a C-section. It can be like up to 5 days. And I didn't really have a lot of colostrum to give. So Edith essentially was like starving. And I didn't put two and two together, but I was so desperate for her to sleep because I was like, we're all miserable. This is horrible. Something's going on. Like, I need to do something differently. And by an act of God, the nurse on the second night was like, how do you feel about, we could try a bottle maybe? And I was sending her off to the nursery because I was so flustered. I was like very emotional. I felt very powerless. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Like, I felt like I was doing all the wrong things. And this is what I had, this like aha moment of, these feelings came in very quickly after I had her. And they're still touchy, I guess, to this day. And I sent her, the nurse was great. I sent her to the nursery. She was like, if you really feel like you need to, please send her to the nursery. It's okay. We'll take care of her. And finally, I was just at a point where I was exhausted. I literally, this is a sham in itself. I get that when you leave the hospital, you don't necessarily, like, you're expected to do night feedings, day feedings, all the above, and you're really not getting a lot of sleep. However, when you're in the hospital and you have just birthed the baby, and I don't care how, it takes a lot out of your body. So to be in labor for an ungodly amount of hours, or to be like drawn out for like being induced for days, like, you're run down ragged. You're not getting any sleep. And the best thing you can do is have a little bit more support and a little bit more help before going home and losing all of that. And some people have a village that is immediate and they come in and they help, or they have the option to do that or hire in help. That was not necessarily the case. I was doing it all. And I just remember breaking down on the second night, and I was like, I need a hot minute. Like, and Vince and I, first time parents, didn't know what we were doing. And so she had said, how do you feel? The nurse had said, how do you feel about if we try and give her formula? And I was like, be my guest. I just want her to be happy and content. And she gave her formula, and she actually slept for, I think, 2 hours, and then she brought her back to me and I tried to feed. And that started this cycle of I'd try and pump. I mean, I was still waking up to pump. I tried pumping. I wasn't getting a lot of colostrum, and I'm talking like drops. Like, I'm not talking about little, like, measurable. I'm talking like a raindrop, or when your sink is leaking a little bit, like, and I'm talking like a drop here or there. That's what I'm talking about. So I was so discouraged. I felt so bad. I was not warned about this, and I wish I was, because honestly, it would have set me up for success. This was a really big moment that I feel like I could have done differently and wish I could have. But that's what happens. When I had Evie, I did things much differently. So what I had in my plan of care for Edith was, and I don't understand, I would breastfeed, then I would pump, and then I would formula feed. And I think the idea was that eventually I would have, once my milk came in, I would have enough that I wouldn't have to pump in between trying to breastfeed and trying to supplement. That didn't happen. So I was in this vicious cycle for like a solid week. Of basically trying to breastfeed a very pissed off kid that wasn't getting anything. Then I was pumping while she was pissed off because she wasn't getting anything. And then I would supplement, which means I would pretty much supplement almost a whole bottle of what she needed. So I up and gave up within that week. I was like, I'm not doing this. Fuck trying to breastfeed. Like, this is just not working. I tried following up with another lactation consultant after. Not helpful. I literally got nothing useful out of it. It was very frustrating. And just give us a call back when you're ready. We'll be here, like, in a couple of days. Why would I want to go back when I felt so unsupported? And this is just my own experience. I know everyone else has different. It's just one of those that was so disheartening. I think I came in contact with like 3 lactation consultants at that point, and truth be told, the night nurse that very first night was like the most helpful when it came to breastfeeding. And yeah, it was a mess. So looking back, when I'm having this moment 7 days in, and at Edith, I'm thinking, oh, that's my big moment of shame. I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, here I am worrying. I guess this is what mom shame looks like. But after reflecting, no, I experienced it right away and completely felt unsupported in that regard because, I mean, I didn't really talk about it that much. What could I do? There's not much I can change. And I want to preface this also by saying your worth is not equal to whether you can breastfeed or not. I think I put so much shame and guilt around it, and some people's bodies just don't produce enough or don't produce at all. Or you have the other end of the spectrum where they overproduce, and that creates a whole nother issue of things. And even if your body does and you choose not to breastfeed, fed is best. Fed is best. That is number one. That is what I went in thinking, and then the whole process just completely, and hormones, etc., just completely baffled me and caught me off guard. So I pumped exclusively for, I think I gave up at 6 weeks going into 7 weeks. And supplementing, like, it wasn't doing a lot for me. I was wasting so much time because I never felt full. I never felt empty. There was no feeling there. And I wasn't getting enough, and then just seeing my milk supply dwindle even further, and I'm supplementing more, it wasn't worth it. And then yet, I run into, after that, and we switch over to formula, a whole nother plethora of issues come in, and this is where I'm going to talk about advocating for yourself. I kind of talked about that last episode, how there's been a couple of times in medicine or when I'm seeing a doctor that I wish I would have advocated more. And to some extent, I feel like I advocated, but I guess I needed to be screaming from the rooftops that something was not right. And that is the case for this. Actually, not really. So my daughter, Edith's pediatrician back in Illinois, phenomenal. He was fantastic. He was very much so, he was like the chillest doctor. He was like, Mom, you tell me what's going on. You know your kid best. Obviously, he sprinkled in some medical things. He checked her over, like did his due diligence, but also he wanted to hear from me how I felt about how things were going, etc. And I actually really feel like I'm so grateful that he was our pediatrician, because I think things could have been different and I would have been way more stressed. But getting into it, so I switched over full over to formula, and Edith would not stop spitting up. She was super fussy. Just, I could tell something was wrong. And I'm like kind of throwing ideas out. I'm Googling. I'm talking to my best friend. Her daughters had acid reflux. They had silent reflux. And I come to the conclusion that I'm pretty sure she has reflux. And I didn't know how to handle it. So we scheduled a meeting at we had a meeting with the pediatrician anyways. And so I brought it up, and he was like, yeah, actually, no, take that back. I had been talking to him, and I was like, this is what's going on. And he kind of gave me some advice. He said, you're good to switch if you like. If it's not working for her, go ahead. I don't remember if he had any specific recommendations, maybe Enfamil. Can't remember. Anyways, I tried Enfamil. I kid you not. I tried all of Enfamil. I tried the hypoallergenic, or like the Nutrimogen, if I'm saying that correctly. Tried that. Switched back over. I was in Similac in the first place. Switched back over to Similac. I tried Hip, Hall, which are European formulas. I tried goat's milk. Edith was seeing a chiropractor. And finally, at some point in the mix, Edith went on antacid medicine. And that did help. It didn't fully help, but it definitely helped. And then I did my own research, And I joined a acid reflux group for kids, and this is where mom shaming online comes into play. I post what's going on, and I think this was when I was trying to figure out between hip and Hall and goat's milk, etc., like what the next steps were, and the flood of comments. You shouldn't be switching your kid's formula within 2 weeks. Blah blah blah. I had Edith's pediatrician like totally give me the green light, because I shit you not, I saw the difference between formula to formula within a matter of like feeds. With goat milk, Edith got worse. I gave it 3 feeds, but she spit it all up. Like there was none left. She over spit up whatever I gave her. It was so bad. Like then and like, don't tear down my character. Like that's so frustrating, because this is why I'm a lurker in Facebook groups, or a lot of times on social media, because I am terrified of the criticism that I'm gonna get. I'm only giving you what I'm giving you. There is a whole story that I don't want to write out everything that's going on. Anyways, I am finally coming to an end, and someone recommend, and honestly what I had found, and a couple of women had posted this, like, this is what I tried, this is what I tried, this is what you should be trying, and it's like, I tried those. What I found is you have to do what is best for your kids, and you know them best, and not every kid is one size fits all. So what I found was I had tried Nutrimogen, I think is what it's called, from Enfamil. Then I switched over to Similac Alimentum, the powder. That wasn't doing good. And then for whatever reason, I found in one of the groups that the ready-to-feed Similac Alimentum and the powder were a little bit different. And I think it was corn or some sort of additive that was in the powder and the Alimentum that wasn't in the ready-to-feed. I gave Edith the ready-to-feed, which is the liquid formula, like a different baby. Within the first bottle, it was like she was a different baby. And gives me chills just thinking about it, because it's like, I am so grateful to have had the pediatrician I had, and he had said, just listen to your gut. Also, he had given me the green light. Like, if you don't think it's working, you're welcome to try. You're telling me your daughter is changing. I'm trusting you. And I kept him updated. Also, it helped. It massively helped, because he told me that when we were going to put Edith on the reflux meds, that his kids both had, I think his girls both had reflux. So his first daughter, he went through it, and then within, I want to say he said 2 weeks of having his second daughter, she's noticed the signs and put her on meds, got her on meds immediately, and things were good. And it just goes to show, I think the other thing that was killing me about it all was in those groups, it's also common, and then doing my research, babies just cry. I don't know if you've heard a screaming baby that's just like screaming, and they're fed, clothed, bathed, like skin to skin, like they've gotten enough sleep, or maybe they haven't. I don't know. For me, I could tell, like, she was in pain. Like, there was something seriously wrong. And that's what's so frustrating. It's like, just because we can't communicate with babies with words doesn't mean their cries aren't fully communicating something as well. And so frustrating. I felt so bad. And at the same time, it was like, I was helpless, but yet I wasn't. I was working on finding a solution. And had I not had an amazing pediatrician, and had I not, I don't know, there was a boost. I will say that something that came through this, I'm not afraid to advocate for my kids. And I am so grateful for that. I am so grateful that, like, I don't get nervous about it. It is what it is. Like, I might get nervous about advocating for myself, and I might be defensive. But I was getting all worked up and like worried that when I brought this to our pediatrician, it wasn't going to go well. And he was so chill about it. He was like, yeah, let's put her on meds. You've been telling me this for a while in our messages. Like, I think that's a good idea. Like, I'm willing to give it a shot. Like, there are some clear textbook case symptoms. Let's do it. Let's see how it is and give me a report. So grateful. And then when I had Evie, things were a bit different. But just those feelings that came into it. And now, 3 years later, I have a daughter. She won't drink milk. She eats whatever she wants. And I still have those feelings of shame, guilt, and remorse. I literally was just talking this with my therapist last night, and I want to look. I wrote it down. Something that she said that was so powerful and almost empowering was, she's like, there's no bad feelings. There's no such thing as bad feelings. And I think I have full-fledged labeled shame, guilt, and remorse as bad feelings. And I felt that way before becoming a mom, and then when I felt the feelings much more intensified after becoming a mom, it's just a different level of concern, worry. I was anxious before. Hell, I have ADHD. Like, there is a piece of anxiety in there. And after having kids, it's like, I just want to make sure that you're thriving in whatever capacity that works for you. And am I doing the right thing to make that happen? Today, while we were at this safari park, Edith is obsessed with nature, like so obsessed. And she loves playing in the dirt, and it drives me insane. I know I used to do it. I need to just let it happen. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we really need to do some sort of nature walk, or I don't know, like nature-led walk or something to do with that and harness those skills. And then I start thinking to myself, I'm not doing it right. Like, I could be doing so much better. No. I am doing the best I can right now with what I have available to me. And that is the message I want to give to you. Your feelings matter. They're valid. Whatever you're feeling in the moment, that's okay. And what you do with them is okay too. And like my therapist told me yesterday, there is no such thing as bad feelings. If you're having feelings and they feel icky, it's okay. Honor them. What can you do to help yourself move through that? And for me, it was just realizing I'm literally doing what I can in the moment with the resources that I have and the mental capacity that I have. I'm going to give myself a day, and then I'm going to probably look into something or figure out a way to harness Edith's love of nature, my little botanist. I am shocked at the amount of I'm shocked by the lack of support when it comes to mental health for women, and especially when it comes to lack of support when it comes to mental health of mothers, because I feel like I'm having this heart-to-heart with my therapist. And also, therapy is great, 1,000%. I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I also do coaching. I'm a huge proponent of coaching, but there is a definite difference. And here I am just like pouring my heart out to how I'm feeling, and at the same time, I'm like worried about how she's feeling and if I'm looking like a horrible parent. And it's like, I just want to show up authentically, real, and not have to worry about there being some consequence, because I feel like we're not taught that it's okay to experience these feelings. And even I'm talking about them now, but I can tell you I felt a deep, immense feeling of shame when I was like, I'll share, having ADHD, and honestly sometimes just being a parent. I will be sitting and the girls will be playing around me or on me, and like the touch, like they're just enjoying and having their best. I'm so touched out that like they touch me and I don't physically shudder, but inside I'm like, I just need a break. I just need a break. And it makes me want to cry. I'm not going to. But I feel like there's not a way to harness that support and talk about it and those feelings that come. Like, I feel horrible for feeling that. And at the same time, like, it's understandable. Kids are very difficult to raise at times. This stage is very difficult. I have a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old, and God love them, but I think we're entering the era of three-nager with one. And then the 18-month-old, oh my God, I love her, and she is so wild. Like, I am contemplating currently saran wrapping my bookshelf because she is climbing on it and then getting books and ripping them. Like, hello, those are my precious prized possessions. Like, can you rip some paper? I'll give you paper if you want to rip it. Like, not my books. Or my favorite right now is we have all of the table or the chairs at our dining room table kind of slanted inward and leaned in because Evie will just climb the chairs very quickly, and before you know it, she's on the table. Apparently, yesterday, it's not been, maybe in like a month and a half, she's now realized all of a sudden that she can go on the inside where the chairs are tilted in, and she can push the chair back so it is sitting in the proper like place. She climbs up, and I guess she did this yesterday while Vince was in the bathroom. Not for long either. And she got on the table, and I have these like styrofoam pumpkins around a candle as like a centerpiece. Guess she was taking chunks out of the styrofoam pumpkin. I come downstairs and I'm like, what the hell is this styrofoam doing? Like, what? And Vince just like looks at me without like a very like emotionless face and goes, who do you think it was? And honestly, I was not surprised. I was like, I guess I shouldn't have really asked that. Like, I shouldn't have. They're wild. I love them. And there are days that I am at my wit's end. I have raised my voice at some point. I have apologized for raising my voice. And I show up and I do it again the next day. Or I try to be better the next day. And it is a work in progress. And the thing is, I'm not perfect. Those feelings that I have are absolutely valid. It is a tough job raising kids, whether you're a stay-at-home parent or a working parent. The feelings that you have are absolutely okay. It's normal to feel that way. Per my therapist, it was like a light bulb went off. I think, and also social media does not always present that, depending on who you follow. There are parents that I follow that it's like, oh my God, they fucking get it. They do. I love you. I can relate to this so much. And then there are the other like wild swing of things. And that's, I think, what's stuck in my head, where it's like, they're very like gentle parenting, but I only see like snippets of it. So that's the only portion of their life that I'm seeing. And it's like, they just don't ever get upset. They just remain calm. In a life of chaos and commotion, how do they just not get flustered? Like, is it me? Is it my mental illness of having ADHD anxiety? Like, what is wrong? And it was so validating to hear my therapist be like, no, parenting is hard. And it is acceptable to feel the emotions of that. The feelings that come with becoming a parent are okay. However, you get up, you do it again, and you try your best. And no, it's not like I'm hurting my kid, but I feel like I'm emotionally hurting them in some way, and that's my fear. Like, oh my gosh, I just raised my voice to like, or I bribed Edith yesterday. She like, I set her down in the parking lot to move the car seat around because someone parked way too close to us and she was not about getting in. And I set her down and she took off. And oh my God, that was the most terrifying thing ever. And I'm like, please come back here. We'll play we'll play Barbie, Little People when we get home, or we'll do a craft. Like I was running after her, and luckily she was just trying to do a circle around my car. No one was near. Like no oncoming traffic was near. But like when I got in the car, I was like, why am I bribing? This is not good. And yet at the same time, it's better than like just letting her wander. And my objective was to keep her safe. And at the same time, I just questioned so much. Am I doing it right? I am doing what I had in the moment with the resources that I had available. That's what came to mind. Did it work? It absolutely did not work. Currently nothing is working. It's just a matter of cat and mouse chasing. Like, we're in that era, I guess. And I guess I'm just gonna have to learn with it and work with it. And that's where we are. I have hard days. I put them down. I reminisce. And yet, after a long, hard day, like yesterday and other days, I get so excited for what tomorrow will bring. I get so excited thinking about their little faces, smiling in the morning, waking me up, or like Edith comes and knocks on her door if I'm not up yet to like wake me up. And she'll be like, Mama. And it's so cute. And then Evie, since Edith's birthday was soon, she wakes up, happy day, instead of happy birthday. And those moments are so beautiful and so pure, and it's what keeps me going. I mean, it's not the only thing that keeps me going, because community, village, connection. But that is what I live for right now. I live for those smiles. I live for the connection that I have with them and the bond that I have. And my parenting is not perfect by any means. It is a work in progress, and it forever and always will be. But my love is pure, and it always will be for them. My feelings are gonna vary. One minute I could feel amazing, I'm doing the best, I feel the best, and then the next minute the shame and the guilt come into play, and it's okay. So if you felt the feelings and you're questioning how you're doing today, know you're doing the best you can, and you're doing a great job at it. There are moments of weakness, and honestly, they are also moments of opportunity. Like, I look back at some of the times when I've like shrieked out of anxious, like yesterday when Edith was like running, I'm like, no, and like chasing her and like shrieking essentially like, oh my God, this can't be happening. I mean, I didn't say that, but in my mind I'm like, oh, this is terrifying. And literally I got her, she's safe, and the feelings that I felt are valid. Like, they happen. Things happen. Kids are uncontrollable, and to some degree. Keeping them safe is your first priority, and then working with them emotionally. After I like raise my voice, I apologize. I say I didn't do that well, and I work on trying to model better and becoming a better human being. And I think it also ties in with Brene Brown's work, because if you're not vulnerable, and even with your kids, then that leaves an area for connection, a missed opportunity for connection. And that's why I share. So thank you so much, and know that you are doing an amazing job where you're at. Whether you've had a rough day or you've had an amazing day, the feelings that you feel are valid. The experiences that you've experienced are absolutely valid. And you deserve to be heard. Your voice deserves to be heard. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops, create a podcast like I am. But if you feel like you need an outlet, work with your village, work with a trusted loved one, work with a therapist. Therapists are amazing. I wish they were more readily available, especially for people that don't have insurance. that's just one area that we'll have to work on. Small baby steps win. And we're making those small baby steps. Every day that we wake up is a new, fresh start. And it's a beautiful opportunity to create communication, connection, and new feelings, whether they are, no, not whether they are. There's no such thing as bad feelings. It's honoring the feelings that you have as neutral. Very hard to do, at least for me. I'm working on it. I'm only at day 1. Thank you so much for listening again, and I'm so grateful that you have spent time listening.